comes to this particular matter that will be before our courts, it's really about the question of each and every group wanting to and wishing to solidify its constitutional rights. But the question then that demands us is as to how and to what extent can these particular rights really be practiced. So I suppose that the matter before the court will really be just about how to balance these particular rights, in other words, the religious rights vis-a-vis the cultural rights of the people.
The judges hearing this matter, what is it that they will take into consideration before making a decision?
Yep, mainly what we need to know is that we are guided by our constitution. There are very leading and important sections of the constitution that we need to heed whenever we deal with matters of this nature. One, we have to look into Section 9 of the Constitution that deals with equality and makes provision around the aspect of non-discrimination, and it enlists a number of grounds against which any person can really contest any action if those particular grounds are used to discriminate against any person in this particular regard. Is the question of the right to cultural practice. Secondly, we look at Section 15 of the Constitution, which allows people the right and freedom to religion, conscience and belief and so forth. And similarly, we look into critically Section 29(3) of the Constitution, which allows independent schools to self-establish. But such schools have to register with the state, and given that particular registration, certainly they have to comply with the laws of the country. The balancing aspect, however, is not just holistic. It's not general. It's not broad. There are specific circumstances and contexts that we need to look into, like in this particular matter. If a particular school really is a private religious school and wants to preserve its own values and its own identity, so by so doing, they do such through education. Hence, they have to register with the state. However, there are a number of rights that are really entrenched in the Constitution that cannot really be limited in this particular context.
Are there similar cases that have come before law officials that you're able to tell us of and how they went?
Yeah, but in the previous terms, really the people who took the state to court were individuals who actually took the state to court. It was not specifically legal action taken against the independent schools or private schools, so to say. We do have a case of Pillay versus the MEC of Education in KZN, which really is a constitutional landmark case that outlines the principles of balancing of rights, the principle of reasonable accommodation of another person's cultural or religious belief. There has as well been one case that involves the Department of Correctional Services, wherein employees of the Department of Correctional Services had taken the department to court because they were forced to cut their beard. A very interesting case that was against a private entity, even though it was not a school per se. It's that one that involves a lodge here in Centurion called Kivitskruon, which did not allow an employee to take leave away from work so as to go and be initiated to become a traditional health practitioner. But key to it is that the Pillay case really sets out the precedents, in other words, the guidance that any individual in this country, any court has to follow when it comes to these particular matters.
Mm. With all these cases that you've outlined for us, one also thinks of a case at a pharmacy last year where a man who was wearing traditional gear was asked to leave the store because of what he was wearing. Does it appear to you, especially from the work that you did, I guess, and continue to do, that this idea of social cohesion that is bandied about in South Africa actually translates at ground level, and how far we are, or how we are faring rather, with this whole idea of social cohesion and tolerance?
Yeah, certainly to do. We are really in the 27th year now, walking into the 28th year since our democracy. When we see matters of this nature, really, they raise eyebrows. They are concerning because really they go against the very principles, the very spirit, the purport and object of the Constitution. When you look at our preamble, it specifies that we really need to deal with our diversity. And by so doing, we are working towards a united country. But given all these particular examples, even the one that you recently cited, it really evinces the fact that our people are yet to learn about the types of discrimination that we have in the country. You see, when you look at this particular one, some might argue that, oh, okay, it's not really a direct discrimination, but on its own, it does have those particular analogous grounds upon which a person can rely, and thus becomes a matter of indirect discrimination that we need to look into when it comes to this particular school.
When it comes to the school and this case, last year, the mother of the pupil coming out to talk about especially the criticism that she since faced, with many people saying, well, why did you take your child to a Christian private school that subscribes to different rules that you subscribe to on a traditional and cultural basis? Is there something to be said about that?
Yeah, you know, a very important aspect really that we need to look into to do is about the essence of this particular religious education. As I indicated earlier on, is that religious education is used in order for a particular parochial school. In other words, the school that believes in a particular religion and that self-supports uses in order to ensure that they preserve their identity given their own religion, as well as they want to instill the religious value aspect. What is important is that when we look at Section 23 of the Constitution, Section 29, excuse me, that deals with the issue of education, the dichotomy that we need to draw between public and private schools is that when it comes to the aspect of religious observance in schools, the Constitution is very clear about the schools that are related to the state, in other words, state schools, state institutions, and so forth, and allowing those particular entities to accommodate one another within the particular school when it comes to, for argument's sake, the issue of assemblies and so forth. But when it comes to the private schools, there is not really that particular clear indication about this particular aspect of accommodation. But the key question is, in this particular context, this particular pupil is wearing a isiphandla, which really does not even affect the curriculum itself. Even though at the end of the day, yes, we talk about the freedom of expression, that whatever that you are wearing expresses your beliefs and so forth, but it is about this particular kid. It does not stop the school from preaching whatever that it wants to preach about its own religion. If it's a Christian school, it can go out there and say, this is what the Bible says if they follow the Bible. But that does not give them the leeway now to say, no, you cannot come into our school wearing beads or maybe wearing an isiphandla. You see, there's an issue of, as well, dress code in schools. If, for argument's sake, a pupil now comes in wearing something on top of the uniform, that then blurs the uniform. You come with a badge and so forth. Then on that note, those are some of the things that we can look into. But this particular issue really is a question of saying, how does it affect even just a simple question of religious education that the school itself attempts to instill in its own adherents, so to say.
Advocate Aubrey Sidupane, thank you very much for availing yourself this afternoon and helping us make sense of that issue.